Okay, David, we are live. Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock, a live stream for today, December 8th, 2020. We have two very exciting companies for you today. The first one is KABN Systems, KABN, TRWRF on the over-the-counter. We got David Lukacs, the CEO. I know a lot of you have been very excited for KABN. I mean, the stock was up basically doubled yesterday when we announced this. So let's I'm sure this is going to be very worthwhile. And again, for those of you new to our program, our goal with Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live streams is to bring you companies which we believe have 10x to 100x upside potential. So these are companies that have three things in common. They're number one, they're going after big multi-billion-dollar opportunities. Number two, they're at key inflection points right now in their growth curve. And number three, they have multiple catalysts in place which can really increase that shareholder value, increase that stock price with news flow, developments, all the good things. So those of you following our program for a while, you know that we've had in the last year, a number of stocks that have increased between 1,300%, 2,000%. Just in the last few months, we've had a bunch of stocks that have gone up, 400, 500%. And of course, yesterday we had two stocks that doubled, including KABN. But this is just the start because, when we get involved with a company like KABN or anybody else, they're on this program because we think that this thing has 10x upside potential. So the format for today is David is going to do a quick presentation. Then we're going to open up for Q&A, and it's your questions that make these events special. So please ask your questions. We'll pop them up on the screen. David will answer them, and so check out the presentation, ask your questions, and then decide for yourself if KABN Systems is going to be our next 10-bagger stock or more. So with that said, David, take it away.
Well, thanks, Jack. A pleasure to be here and welcome everyone. We're excited to be able to present KABN. There's a lot of new information that literally came out this morning, and we'll be able to share that with you. But to start, KABN is a company that is in the business of verifying, managing, and monetizing online identity. And we'll explain a lot about that today. Really, what we're here to do is empower you to be able to manage your identity, online identity, and digital assets so that you're in control, you're in charge, and you're profiting from that. And we have four great products, and this is our suite of services. And I'll get right to it. Our disclaimer and our presentation is available online, and we ask that you read our disclaimer, obviously. But let me take a few minutes to describe KABN North America. We want to talk about who we are. What is self-sovereign identity and verifiable credentials? How are governments supporting individuals as they use online identity and data? I'll talk about our services in the addressable market, how we empower users to create value, and how we generate revenue and create stakeholder value. Let's talk about who is KABN North America. And there's a lot of information because this is a new area. We focus in self-sovereign identity, the ability for a user, and we believe it's a basic human right for consumers or individuals, not corporations, to benefit from the ownership, management, and control of their personal data, identity, and verifiable credentials. This is really important, and this will be the theme throughout this discussion. Our team is made up of experienced industry veterans, an average of 25 years or more. We've all had success in our businesses, and we've taken that to KABN. We're a publicly listed company, on the CSE, and our symbols on the OTC and FRA, we're looking to upgrade those in the near future. We've got massive reach, early adoption, highly scalable. Let me be clear about this. SSI, or self-sovereign identity, is relevant to 100% of the online market, not 10% or 20%. Everyone online will need to manage their identity in a go-forward model in the next year or two. Powering SSI, we are a steering member of the Trust Over IP Foundation with partners like MasterCard and IBM and Accenture and Aetna and USAA. And we are also now a founding member of the Lumetic Exchange that focuses on healthcare and patient data. Our business is built to have low CapEx and low OpEx. We're built for streamlined efficiencies. And we have a unique business and revenue approach. By empowering users to manage their identity with our verified identity products, biometrics, and SSI, we can create one-to-one marketing relationships with third parties and others to create value. We have no fakes or no bots in our system. Everyone in our system is a known user. And lastly, we think data is the new gold. Data is the ability for consumers and ourselves and our partners to create value. Our executive team and directors, again, a great team of people. I've worked with many of them for many years, and they're a great team that has lots of experience in different factors. And you can go onto our website and see their bios. And you know, I'm impressed and proud to work with these people, and I hope you will be too. So let's talk a little bit about self-sovereign identity. You know, and we can talk about these, but frankly, the market is massive. It's really a massive market because it covers everyone. Everyone online, you know, will need to have self-sovereign identity. And, you know, this comic is really funny because it's old. It's from the late 90s. But on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. They don't know who you are, what you're doing. You know, you can pose as anything in gaming. You want to be, you don't want to deal with your gender or your identity or who you are. It's really easy to do that. But as we consume more and more services online, and we do more and more online, it's going to be important that both you're able to identify yourself and other parties that are providing services know that you are who you say you are. And that self-sovereign identity solves that problem. It like having a physical wallet and key ring, but digital. All the things that you would store and prove who you are in the real world is handled through SSI platforms. And we have one that we believe is engaging, free to use by the consumer, and adds value. Now, here's the backstop. Governments and standards are moving towards supporting this. In Europe, it's GDPR. In California, it's CCPA. In Canada, we've got something called PIPEDA. Australia, we've got the CDR commencement and other regional opportunities. Governments are saying that users, not corporations, need to manage their identity and data. This is really important. You know, we all heard the horror stories about data theft and identity theft online and what happened with companies like Facebook and Cambridge Analytica. SSI solves that problem, and we believe we are a leading company in this space. So the time for self-sovereign identity has come. We believe we're in the right place at the right time, and all the data supports this. I'm not going to go into detail here, but we're really at the inflection point of where things are happening. You know, the early adopter chasm has sort of, you know, been gapped, and now we're moving into early majority. We're at the right place at the right time and supported by industry and, as I mentioned, some of the major players. We also use something called Trust Over IP. We're a steering member of Trust Over IP with companies like Accenture, you know, Province of British Columbia, MasterCard, IBM, LG, CNS, Accenture, as I mentioned, and people like Aetna and USAA. Trust Over IP is defining the way the architecture will work for SSI, and we're a steering member of that organization. Let me talk to you about Liquid Avatar, because this is the really cool part about our business. We've taken self-sovereign identity and verifiable credentials, things that you would keep in your wallet, access and identity opportunities, and we made it fun and engaging. So Liquid Avatar lets you be who you want to be online. We have a suite that allows you to create your own avatars, and we have services with some of the leading artists that allow you to purchase avatars, really cool avatars by comic book designers, and you're able to, at no cost, to create self-sovereign identity and customize icons that fit your interests and profiles for each facet of your personality. You might have one for work, one for investing, one for business, one for school, one for gaming, one for family, one for friends. You can be who you are in the digital world, and you can share what you want, when you want, and with whom you want. It's at your control. So really, when we go back to the addressable market, what does Liquid Avatar do and what markets does it cover? Well, the answer really is, what markets don't we cover? We offer biometrics. Everything is biometrically controlled so that we can prove you are you. We have full service digital wallets, self-sovereign identity. We offer data services, and we offered verified identity. And those create credentials, and those credentials create engagement. We can engage in the education, financial services, e-commerce, community, government and services, passwords and access, no username and password anymore. In the future, it'll be a verifiable credential. Entertainment, online services, work and trade shows, travel, family and friends, sporting events, and it covers 100% of the addressable market. So we have the opportunity to succeed in emerging markets with partnerships and opportunities that we can power users to do what they want when they want online as easily as they do in the real world. Now, this is a bit of a big slide, right? So these are all the things that, somebody like Sarah would do online. Once she creates her avatars, she can biometrically control those. She can put them in wallets, keep them safe, make sure only she has access. And she can now create verifiable credentials, basically credentials that are connected to her identity on the blockchain with our ecosystems that make sure only she has access to these services. It's really important, next level. Now, if you wanted to, access a workplace and had a credential, only you could get into that workplace because you'd have to scan a card. Now you'll have these verifiable digital credentials in your digital wallet, and you can store thousands of them. And what's cool about our platform is we're sort of the app store of verifiable credentials, right? You can store credentials not only that we create, but others in the industry create, and you can manage and store them through our platform at no cost. This was a big news this morning. We have announced a consortium to power COVID-19 verifiable access and identity credentials. This is with leading companies like Loop Insights, Lumetic, Trip Experts, the campus agencies, and others. We are now creating the ability for healthcare providers to issue credentials, people to hold those credentials, and go to venues which can then verify a credential, an entire ecosystem. This is now not only going to be viable for vaccination and diagnostic testing, but it can be used for a whole host of services that we explain. Imagine that, once you get your vaccination or you have a test, that you can easily get into places with credentials that you can prove, one, that you are who you say you are, and two, that you have the right to present a credential that you've got this vaccination or whatever, and enter that facility. So this is really important. Our job, we believe, is a part of it is to start helping people getting back to what they want to do. If I say, if you had a test or a credential, what would you be getting back to? Fill in the blank. We're able to empower the systems to do that. Now, how do we create revenue? It's really quite simple. Our customers, our clients, our consumers, they all get our services for free. And in return, we're able to never sell or rent their data, but we're able to bring them offers and opportunities that make sense to them because we have a one-to-one relationship with them and they are known users. Again, we never sell or rent data. We bring them offers to their apps that they can take advantage of. And when you look at our targets by generation, I mean, these are massive numbers. And, even if we're getting a little bit off every transaction that they do, because we have the right people bringing offers to the right groups, the numbers can be enormous. I mean, we're estimating, obviously you can see for these numbers, that we're estimating that revenues could be significantly high per user. And again, our market reach is 100% of the online market. Our revenue drivers are simple. Liquid Avatar, our KABN Cash, which is our catch-all for all our revenue programs. And we are approved in Canada and in Europe, and we are now looking at the US. We started that as well for offering our own Visa debit card, our own banking services. We offer bank-grade verification for identity in combination with biometrics to ensure that you are you. And we can translate those into user services. And from those user services, we can create revenue drivers. Again, our position is pretty simple. We have a short, mid, and long game. In the short game, we're already there. In the mid game, we're looking to create stickiness for users using our services, and the long term, it's retention. So we've really built this out over the last 3 years, and we started by putting our own money in first. So when we came to our public company, we had no debt. We had a little bit of trade debt, but no debt. We still only have trade debt. We have no short or long-term other types of debt like convertibles or loans. We really run our business on low CapEx and OpEx, so that we can ensure that we can create revenue, large revenue and value in the long term. Again, our milestones are pretty simple. We did our RTO in Canada on June 10th, 2020, and we're already in product launches. And we expect in Q1, we'll start launching our COVID-19 program with additional consortium members and all our other products. So we believe we're built for success. And if you look at some of the other companies in the space, what's really important is the retained value of the users. So a company like Credit Karma, sold for over $7 billion, I think it was $7 billion US, and their average revenue, we estimate, and again, we have the data for this, is about $8 per user, and their valuation per user was $125. So not only do we drive revenue for users on sort of an ARPU basis, we also have the ability to retain value on an enterprise level of our users. So, if I could sum it all up, we talk about reach, and that the online market for us is 100%. We have a unique business approach. Our solutions are built to empower users, generate revenue, and create stakeholder value with high growth and scalable solutions. And we have an outstanding team that we are continuing to add to, who have proven success in the marketplace. So I'd like to thank you for listening to me, and I look forward to your questions.
David, okay. Let's take some questions. Let's take some audience questions. David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thanks,
Okay,
Jack.
perfect. We got everything working. Okay, so I'm going to start off first of all. I think there was a question about what's the number of shares outstanding? Like somebody's trying to understand what the market cap is right now.
Sure.
After the funding.
Oh, well, prior to the funding, it's just under 67 million shares. So it's a reasonable basic. Diluted, I think we're in the mid 80s, and we'll right now with 1 million at 15, we're going to add another 6.6, so it'll be around 72.
Okay, so we're talking about roughly, in US dollars, roughly 20 million valuation of the whole business. So
Yep.
Which is kind of in the world you're in, that's basically like for private companies, that's almost like a seed stage in venture capital for something which has, the type of opportunity that you're
Sure.
doing, and let's see, the traction that you have. So okay, so that's one. So one of what the market cap is.
I can comment there, Jack, just for a second. We've done this multiple times. This is our fourth public company, and in our previous successes, we've done the same thing. We've had stocks start out at an early stage, and again, past performance is no indication of future value. We all know that, but we've done this a number of times where we've had stocks sort of in the 10-15 cent range to start. And one of our companies went to over $3. Another company went to almost $4, and one went from basically to $1.50. So we've seen this before. We like to start out where we can provide value to our shareholders, our stakeholders at an early stage, because we believe that then they can support us as we grow.
Okay, so that's I think that's very important for the audience, is that there's a track record, which is good, that you've done this before. You've had multiple winners in the past. So I look at it this way: is that the probability is that it's going to happen again. Again, we're already seeing some traction happen with the stock right now. So what in terms of, I guess, David, what I'd like to ask you is, because what's going to make this stock, and this is what our audience really probably wants to know, is what's going to make this stock a $2-3 stock, in the next, let's call it 12 months? Like, what is the path to get there?
Well, first of all, again, the only thing I can tell you about tomorrow is the sun will rise in the morning and set in the afternoon. I mean, beyond that, it's really difficult. What are our goals? Our goals are to continue to build our platforms and roll out our products and programs. And we've seen excellent traction. And what's really interesting about this program, Jack, is normally you have to educate a market. You have to spend a lot of time and energy educating a market about what you do. But the market's self-educating. There's so many organizations talking about self-sovereign identity and creating value that what the stake in the ground that we've put in, the market is moving towards us. So I believe that we can achieve the goals that you've mentioned by staying focused on our plan, again, having a great team and, delivering on the things we're going to deliver. And as we increase this consortium, as we've announced today, you can imagine the opportunities in all the service areas we've talked about. So our goal is to focus on getting critical mass because we believe that will drive value and revenue and obviously shareholder value.
Mr. B is asking, how does KABN plan to deal with the Canadian government going digital with all forms of ID? Is this true?
Yeah, Canada has already announced, Ontario is particularly announced what's called a DIS, Digital Information Services. And as part of the Trust Over IP Foundation and other organizations, we're already talking to various governments about what we do. Again, governments are talking about having their own wallets, own digital wallets. But that's cool for us because your digital wallet for a government could fit inside Liquid Avatar. So we don't see this as a competitive position, but a collaborative position. So we're already in those throes now of talking to governments.
Okay, here's an interesting question. Cannabis stories. Now, this guy's a very cynical investor, which I like. So he's asking, how scalable do you think this is? I mean, I'll answer. This is incredible scale. You got how many people on the planet? 5 billion people? 7 billion?
Online. Let me take you back to a story of 1997. My first internet company developed the initial payment gateways for the Canadian banking system for e-commerce. So, and I remember, people telling me no one is ever going to shop online. Let me tell you, no one is ever going to shop online. And so we believed then that there was universality in application and the market's 100%. All we have to do is take a small slice of the market to be extremely successful. We don't have to make the market. Users are already online and more services are going online. We're just creating the intersection point between a consumer and a business. If you think about most organizations, they're either B2B or B2B2C. That's the way we like to think of enterprises. We're exactly the opposite. We're C2B or C2B2B. We start with the consumer. So there's lots of opportunity to be successful here. And a lot of opportunities for scale.
So you were doing payments, online payments in 97. So you were like a very, very early, you're like a pioneer. So this is, I guess the David, how early are we? Because like 97 was just a little bit early, and here are we going to be a little bit early, or is this going to scale? And I guess this leads into this guy, Dan is asking, what do you see of adoption? I guess how fast can this scale?
Well, how many people are going to get COVID-19 vaccinations or being tested or diagnostics? Let's talk about those numbers. Even if it's, and we hear the stats, but even if it's 40% of the North American population, we're still talking about 240 million people, right? Or maybe 200 million people, let's just say 200 million people at the end of the day, 40, 50% of the population. And so at the end of the day, our market's quite sizable today. So our partners in our consortium alone, forget anything else we're talking about, already are dealing with, hundreds of healthcare providers and hundreds of venues. So we've got ready-made markets already in play with our consortium. So and our technology is effectively built. So it's not, we can scale quickly while others are talking about things. We're already coming to market with technologies that work.
Okay, so what? I guess I'm trying to figure out what is the point where there's kind of a tipping point where this can become mainstream. Like how many users would you need to have in the system before it starts to really scale? Is it, we're talking, a million, 2 million? What's the number?
Well, we already have agreements with organizations that have well over 100 million users. So we've already set those plans in motion. So I expect that we'll see significant numbers starting in Q1 and moving from there. So we've already signed deals with gaming operations with companies like Loop Insights, MTRX in Canada, and who's now working with tons of venues. Lumetic has 51 hospitals and 1,200, physician care facilities under in their parent organization. Trip Experts dealing with thousands of over 1,000 tourist boards. Campus Agency, one of our other partners, deals with over 2,000 campuses in the U.S. So we're already going to be accessible to massive amounts of users. So we don't think adoption is an issue because everyone will need the tools to manage their online identity. Period. End of discussion.
Okay. Yeah, because I think like 1 million is that's considered in the, just in the VC world. When you have 1 million users in an app, that's when, it's actually becomes worth. It could be worth $1 billion at that point. It's
right.
That's sort of the standard. If you get to that number, things really, go big.
We can reach that quite quickly, but again, as we start rolling out, we'll report our numbers quarterly. And if they scale fast enough, we might report them earlier.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I guess one of the questions that I want to ask is like, what kind of, in terms of news flow milestones that we can expect over the next couple of months. I think one of the key things, I guess, to really track is going to be the number of users, to see the progress, the acceleration rate of it.
Sure. Well, I think we have a number of different KPIs, right? And one will be users, 2 will be consortium partners, 3 will be networks. I mean, there's a number of different milestone events, and we're already preparing for those today. We believe we have strong opportunity for news flow, and we understand that, again, not our first rodeo. We understand the demands of the shareholder market, and we want to make sure that we're providing continuous disclosure to our shareholders and stakeholders.
Okay. Let's see here. So while it is asking, will KABN reach out to airline companies and event planners who are edging? I don't know, trying to get digital ID proof of vaccinations, or
Right.
I guess they want digital ID. So
right. So we're already in discussions through our partners at Trip Experts for the travel and leisure industry, and again, we've just announced our first consortium partners, but there will be many more to come.
Okay, and we've got a couple of people asking about if you can explain the partnership with Loop Insights further.
Sure. We actually announced this initial partnership in August of this year, so this is not a new relationship. Loop has done an amazing job with their contact tracing and other services to ensure things like the NCAA bubbles that they just powered were 100% successful. You always want to add a but, and the only but I can add at this point in time is we're layering verified identity credentials and verifiable credentials on top of what Loop is doing to make it more secure, more private, and more valuable to both the user and the venue. So there's the added layers that we can bring to Loop that we think will be value for the partnership. The other side too is because we manage known users on insights and information about users, we can give Loop, their clients and their customers, the ability to help consumers manage that data. So there's a lot of opportunity, and I might refer people to look up the release on I think it was August 25th that we did with Loop as the beginning, and we're excited about it. They're a phenomenal company, and Rob Anson and the team has done an amazing job, and we're excited to be partnering with them.
Okay, so David, let's kind of wrap up. We're going to have you back next week for an update. We're going to do like an extensive Q&A. We'll have some extensive audience questions. This is kind of the I know this is not your first rodeo, but this is your first rodeo. So next time we'll have you back for some extensive Q&A. But I want to kind of to be very candid. The investor base that we have, I think for sure, is that they need immediate constant daily news flow. Like They need news releases like 3 times a day, otherwise they think a stock is going to go to zero. So what kind of news flow can they expect from KABN the next few months? Like what give us an idea of like what kind of pace, like what kind of developments you have, so that we want to set expectations now so that people they don't start going crazy.
No worries, no worries. Well, if you look at our history of news releases, through the early days, we were averaging 2 a week. That's what we did. And recently, while we've been preparing for this COVID-19 verifiable credential, our news pace was a little less as we're doing that. I mean, it is December, and obviously, but I think you can expect, a very healthy news flow through this month, and then starting in January, an excitable pace from there. We've got a lot to talk about, but we want to make sure we're doing it right, and the audience is prepped to consume it. And what you'll see about our releases, which may be different than other people's releases, is ours are more storytelling. So we'll refer back to information that we've already talked about, so that people can see the building of a story. It's really important. We've seen this to be very successful, so that you can see the culmination of what we're doing, not just isolated events. So I think if anyone follows us, the other thing too is we're really good at getting back to people. If we can't guarantee that we can get back to everybody in minutes, but our contact information is available publicly. If you reach out, we get back to you. That's always been a mandate of mine as a CEO in any of our companies, that we want to talk to our constituents, because sometimes we get really great ideas from people, and we want to make sure that we're building effectively partnerships with our constituents. So we want to keep everyone happy, but we've also got to run a company and make sure things are done right.
Okay. So I guess the main thing is that there's going to be a high level of transparency in terms of news flow as the company makes milestones, things like that. Actually, I want to ask a question. There's a guy who's asking an interesting question. I want to pop it up on the screen. Will you be able to monetize metadata?
That is an interesting question, and I want to be careful in my response, because there was just another provision in California with the election that's going to change anonymized data, de-identified data, and other data. So we again, because we don't sell or rent data, it's important to understand that we have to have permission for everything we do. So that's number one. Number two is there are rules around metadata and other components, and new rules coming into play. So as we follow those rules, those regulations, but as long as we believe our consumers can benefit from a solution and they give us permission, implied permission, we will act accordingly. We have to act in trust and within the rules and regulations.
Okay, David. So I'm going to ask you one last question today, which is our favorite here at the Wall Street Reporter, which is in your opinion, top 3 reasons why investors should consider KABN stock.
Well, again, you got to look at the business first, right? We're about building a growth story. So reach. Look at our market. If we talk about our market is the addressable market is 100% of people online. So that's easy. We have a great team. If you spend a little bit of time to look at our team, you see we have a really great team, and we have a really unique business approach. I mean, our consumers get all our services and offerings for free, and we monetize it by partnering with consumers. That's probably the largest market available. So we believe we have an opportunity to succeed. We're all vested in the company. The senior team took a long-term escrow on our stock to make sure that we can power our investors first. So we want to make sure that ourselves and our stakeholders succeed. That's our goal.
Okay. David, on that note, I want to thank you, and we'll look forward to having you back on next week. We'll have an extensive Q&A with hopefully some key new developments, and we'll go from there. David, thank you again.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks, everyone.